Welcome, this is M&S Productions on Radio 1
This is Mohamed Abdallah.
and Shahd Zulfikar.
And now, Shahd Zulfikar, let's start off with this case we have for the guy called Michael Phillips who spent 12 years in prison for a rape crime he didn't even commit.
Oh my god, Mohamed Abdallah.
Yeah, Shahd.
Tell me more.
Yeah. It's a very interesting story, by the way. A man called Michael Phillips was accused of the crime of raping a 16-year-old. And after the CSI investigated further in the crime, they found out that it wasn't actually him. So 12 years ago, someone like Shahd might question, why did they have the DNA wrong at the first time? Right, Shahd?
Exactly.
Well, I'd like to tell you that 12 years ago, science wasn't as advanced as today.
Also heard that the 16-year-old girl picked him out of a photo lineup, which was very unfair for him.
They found out that it was Marvin Banks who actually committed the crime. But they couldn't actually put him in prison because the case was long in the drawers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course. There was no DNA from Phillips to compare to the profiled semen in the rape kit. But when the semen was put into the FBI's combined DNA index system, another person was identified as the perpetrator, which shows how forensic science helps exonerate cases and punish those who deserve it, as it lets the truth come out.
Also, this case occurred in Dallas, which is a state in the United States of America, obviously. And Michael Phillips got compensated $80,000 for every year he spent in jail, which were 12 years. So, yeah, that's quite some money.
As for Phillips' life outside of prison, as he struggled to make ends meet, picking up odd jobs as a handyman to pay rent on small apartments. Some of his relatives even doubted that he was truly innocent. And now I will tell you about RFLP. RFLP has mainly 3 steps, which is cutting, separating by a gel called electrophoresis, and comparing it to other RFLPs to determine the perpetrator of the crime. In this picture, as you can see in this picture, step 1 is DNA samples with added restriction enzymes, which is purification of the DNA. And then we add electrophoresis to separate the DNA. Alkaline solution is pulled upward through the gel to a sheet of nitrocellulose. And as for step 4, the paper is exposed to a solution containing radioactively labeled probe, which is the X-ray. And finally, a photographic film laid on top of the paper is exposed by the radioactivity in the bond probe to form an image corresponding to the DNA bands. STR is a part of DNA as it uses 5 to 7 nucleotides, and it uses PCR to copy it, and then uses a gel called electrophoresis to separate it so we can compare it to other STRs. STR is better than RFLP because it uses only 5 to 7 nucleotides, but RFLP uses a lot of DNA and it has to be perfect. On the other hand, STR can be damaged. Now we're going to talk about CODIS, an index system that is the combined DNA identification system. It is a database of DNA profiles from criminal or voluntary samples. When DNA is collected from a crime, they run DNA profile and compare it to the profiles on CODIS. CODIS was created in 1990 as a software pilot project by the FBI. Originally, it was intended as a software platform for the analysis of RFLP profiles and their storage in a searchable database. The purpose of CODIS is when DNA is collected from a crime, they run the DNA profile and compare it to the profiles on CODIS to identify the possible suspect. As for CODIS' function, it's a DNA profile entry management. It's used for searching, match management, and statistical calculation. CODIS is very successful. As of October 2014, CODIS has produced over 200,000 hits, assisting in more than 200,000 investigations. Some risks is that it can mistaken someone innocent and prove them guilty, as it's not a very used out yet